Yesterday was Trafalgar Day, marking 218 years to the day since Admiral Horatio Nelson defeated a combined French and Spanish fleet, heading off Bonaparte's invasion plans and securing British naval supremacy for a century. The Age of Sail left a legacy of rich literature, which reached its peak with the brilliant OBrien adventure series by Patrick O'Brien. When those books were turned into a movie, Master and Commander, in 2003, a ramshackle crew was assembled to sail an 18th century replica warship from Rhode Island all the way to Hollywood, inadvertently recreating the very adventures that O'Brien had depicted in his stories. One of that crew was Will Sofrin, who's turned his tale into a book called All Hands on Deck. Will joins me now. Will, welcome to GB News. Just to begin with, what would be the differences between the replica ship and the original warship? Did you have modern devices on board? Did you have more room? Was it as well built as the original?
Hey, Michael, thanks for having me. Well, let's see, to jump right in, I mean, there's a lot there. We definitely had modern amenities such as engines, electricity, plumbing, and we had one less interior deck than the original Rose would have had, mainly because of the financing requirement that the replica ship be built to serve as a bit of a restaurant. But I think another key difference is the original HMS Rose sailed with a crew of around 200 men, whereas we did the same with just a crew of 30. So needless to say, we were a bit of a skeleton crew taking on the passage of the ship.
So although you had some modern devices on board, you still had to go up aloft. You had to go to the top of the masts to handle the sails. Is that right? You were sailing with sail power on your three-masted ship, and you had to be up there, we're seeing a picture of it now, to manage those sails.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we had to learn how they sailed the ship 200 years ago. And having been a professional sailor before hopping on board Replica Rose, sort of the best way to say it was sort of all Greek to me. Sailing and operating a ship like this required a whole different skill set and definitely a specific vernacular that mostly gone extinct. Unfortunately, led around the world, there's tall ship organizations that have carried on the practice, and most, really sort of the benchmark founding was, I believe, Prince Philip, who was really, really behind tall ship sailing.
You were 21 years old at the time, which is pretty young, I think. Almost the first thing that happened to you is you sailed into a hurricane. Tell us about that.
Well, I'll say, fortunately, I was a little naive of the danger of the situation. I really sort of enjoyed the roller coaster ride as it was happening and unfolded. But then I was also the ship's shipwright, so I was a carpenter on board. I kind of knew what was going on, sort of your modern day engineer. And I remember going up into our forepeak, which is the bow, and we were taking on so much water that our pumps were running. And I looked and I could see the planking opening up below the waterline, and you could see light coming in. That in itself really kind of clued me in on sort of the heightened danger of the situation that we were in. And then there was another stage in the storm where one of our square sails came unfurled, and because we were on this archaic ship, the only way for us to fix the situation meant to free climb the rig up in the storm to take control of that sail, which is just something that doesn't happen today in modern sailboats. So, I think I had an extremely unique experience having to climb aloft in such a powerful storm and figure out how to get it done.
At one time, I believe you were dismasted. That is to say, you lost a mast.
Yes, that's correct. We were on our second leg sailing through the middle of the Caribbean Sea when we had all of our sails set, and a series of unfortunate events caused an explosion with one of our masts. And so that meant a dismasting, and we quickly had to jump onto our toes and climb aloft again and get up because we wanted to make sure that the rest of the rig didn't come over the side of the ship.
How did you get on as a crew? Were you a jolly team or not so much?
That's a great question. I think I'd be doing a disservice if I said everybody got along just fine. But we had great leadership. Our officers were incredible at pulling everyone together. And we did have moments where we knew that we needed to put our differences aside. But yeah, we certainly had a couple smacks back and forth, but we figured it out.
You risked your life. It was a great adventure, but you did risk your life for the sake of what was effectively a cinema prop. You were sailing a ship all that distance, many thousands of miles, through those hostile seas in order that a movie could be made. Do you think it's sensible to risk your life for a movie?
When I signed on, I didn't know I'd be risking my life to make a movie. But you do what you got to do when you have to get it done, and that's what I signed on for. On hindsight, probably say, well, that was a little bit of a ridiculous or unnecessary risk. But I didn't know. I don't think anybody knew that we'd be going sort of such a risk at that time. But it worked out, and probably I'll say it was one of the most transformative and best experiences of my life. And I wrote this book because I think as many people as possible should get out on a ship like this and go experience the world.
And actually, as you alluded to before, those opportunities are available because youngsters can go on tall ships. There are tall ship races organised all the time. So you are now an author. Do you want to say something about Patrick O'Brien and his qualities as an author with books like Master and Commander?
Patrick O'Brien is a treasure. I read one of his books just when I got offered the job on the ship, and then as my sailing career continued on, I read more. Writing this book required me to research quite a bit about his life, and I mean, just an incredible feat for a man who wasn't a sailor to write so well about the Royal Navy. And even though his book series is a set of fiction books, the accuracy of them is sort of like the film, I think, what Peter Weir took on, which was they wanted the books to be and the movie to be a benchmark of history representing the great success of the Royal Navy.
Your book is called All Hands on Deck, and thank you very much for being on GB News, Will Sofrin.